Okay, so I've posted my out of the theater reaction to the film. Now it's time to really get into the nitty gritty of Insidious the Red Door. This will be my spoiler free discussion on the film. So if you haven't seen Insidious the Red Door, you are safe here. I won't be getting into any big reveals or spoilers that happen in the film. These will just be my basic in-depth thoughts on why I really enjoyed Insidious the Red Door. So now that leads me to point one on this. This is a film that has got quite a bit of hate. And the hate I've heard about this film mainly comes from that this doesn't feel like an Insidious film. Which, like, I can see why people feel that way, but I think when you're 5 films in to a franchise, I think you really have to change it up. Like, I just don't think you can really stick to the same rinse and repeat formula. I think it's only a matter of time before it does get boring. So I don't mind the riskier tone and themes that this film really gets into. So yeah, I don't get the hate towards this film at all. So that's point one out the window. Point two on why I love this film is the phenomenal, and yes, I am going to use the word phenomenal here, the phenomenal first act that this film presents. I really fucking enjoyed. Like, yeah, I have to be honest with you, the character dynamics, the character relationships, I really enjoyed the progression of that. And I thought this film opened strong, and then I was a bit iffy on the introduction. I thought it was still a great introduction, but then it wasn't until after the title sequence where we get into Dalton and Patrick Wilson's character, and then that's when I really started to really invest myself into where this film is at, because I think on one hand you really feel sympathetic for them because they want to forget that point in their life. They don't want to remember the fervor, or they don't want to remember their dad trying to kill them when they were very young. So I think you can definitely see, but then I think with anybody who has had an upbringing like that, I think if you grew up not knowing your dad, I think there is always going to be that level of intrigue of of who was my dad, what part did he play in my life. I think it's very much that kind of thing. And that I really dug, and I loved the whole Dalton wants nothing to do with his father, but Patrick Wilson is trying to get closer with him and trying to connect with him more, that father-son bond and all that. And there's so many layers to these characters in this film that I fucking loved. I don't get the hate. And I love the first act, and the dynamic and the way that it's directed and the flow and the pacing of it. I thought it was brilliant. And then we're introduced, I guess, to the love interest of this film, or our new character in here. And I really liked her. I didn't have any major problems with her character's presentation in the film. I thought she offered a decent amount to the film. I didn't think she had a major part to play, but for the part that she had, I thought it was serviceable. I have really no complaints on my end with her performance or with her character. If anything, I would like to kind of see more of her character. And I think this film definitely does have a message about weird people and all of that. That's one of the things that these that these two college students have in common is, is everyone's weird. Everyone has a side of them that's weird. With Dalton in the film, like he's scared of the dark, and then yeah, the other college student. Oh, what was it? Bloody hell. I can't exactly remember what her reason is, but yeah, there's this sweet little conversation with the two of them, and yeah, that I really liked, and I liked their relationship. And now, putting the characters aside, the big thing that we're all here for when coming to an Insidious film is the scares. Like, is the film scary? I thought the scares were very effective in this film. There's some that really caught me off guard. There's some that I really enjoyed the build up to, and the suspense, and just the waiting. Like, that's one thing Patrick Wilson does really well here, I have to admit, behind the camera. Is it's not the type of scares where it's just blah blah. It's not that type of scare. Like, it's the type of scare where it's more building to it. And there's a few times where it stops and continues building, and just as you think it's about to happen, nope, keeps building. And just those little moments I really like, because I think it really keeps you on the edge of your seat. I think it really keeps your eyes glued to the screen, like, when is it going to happen? So I think the dread in the film I really liked. One of my favorite scares in the film has to do with this college student who died, and there's this whole toilet sequence. That I fucking jumped. I shit my fucking pants in. Holy God, the makeup on that guy is spot on. Like, holy shit, if there ever was a person or a character to give you nightmares, that dude gives you fucking nightmares. So yeah, I really loved his scare in the film, and yeah, I thought that was in a very effective way to a very effective way to show a jump scare done right. Because most of the time, jump scares in these types of films, it's usually just a jump scare and a loud noise for the sake of it. This film does it the opposite. There's actually a loud noise with the result of you're actually supposed to be, scared here. This is something that you're supposed to feel fearful towards in the film, and that I really liked. The first jump scare that we get in the film, I really liked. The painting one that you all saw in the trailers, that one caught me off guard here a bit. There's one that has to do with the window, and that one I thought was really cool. There's an extended little scene in here that we didn't see in the trailers, and I thought that had a little nice cherry on top with that one. But yeah, overall, yeah, all of the jump scares were absolutely top notch in this film. They were executed perfectly, they were directed perfectly. The timing, which is very important when it comes to a jump scare, was perfect here. So yeah, no complaints on mine with the jump scares. And now, however, where my problems do come in with Insidious, The Red Door, is the film's ending. Now, I do feel that this film was 20 minutes too long. I feel like the ending does play it up a bit too much. And it's just in the last maybe 10, 20 minutes, like, I started to feel bored. I started to feel that this movie was dragging. I don't know what it was specifically, but I just felt like, yeah, they could have trimmed a couple minutes off the ending and it would have been a perfect film. This would have been up there with probably some of my favorite horror films, in fact, of 2023. And as all of you must be wondering about the black, red, demon face motherfucker in here. He's in here. And he has some pretty cool scenes in the film. I wouldn't say he's as effective in this one as he is in like the first film or the second film, for example. But he definitely shows up, and it's cool to see him. I kind of expected him to play a bigger part in this film, since this film was going to be the closing chapter, and it was going to be kind of surrounded by him. And the film also has a great soundtrack to it. And now, one thing I don't hear really enough people giving credit here is Patrick Wilson's directing. So this is his directorial debut with Insidious: The Red Door, and I thought his directing in this definitely has to be acknowledged. I think he definitely has an eye for this stuff, and I it must be, like intimidating, directing a film in a franchise that is beloved by the horror community. And so he definitely has a lot of pressure on his shoulders with The Red Door. And I think this is probably the best Insidious that I've seen since the first film. Like, keep in mind, I haven't seen all the Insidious films, but from the ones I have seen, this is definitely the one that, I'm definitely going to be buying on Blu-ray. I think this one has a lot of rewatch value to it. And I think Patrick Wilson offers a lot as a director here, and the way that he executes and does sequences in this film, you can definitely tell that this is someone that has a lot of passion, and that's been thirsty to make a film for quite a few years now. And so he's given this opportunity, and he really he does his own spin on this franchise, which I really liked. And I think he's definitely someone who I would love to see more from him as a director. Like, I love Patrick Wilson as a director in the Conjuring films and the Insidious films, and then there's some other ones that he's been in. I think he's a great actor, but I would love to see more of him as a director. I think he's definitely really proven himself in this one to be quite a horror director. So I'd love to see more horror work be thrown his way. Was there anything else that I wanted to discuss in this film? Let's see. And there are a few things in the third act that doesn't make 100% sense in the context of what's happening, but then the ending does leave a bittersweet taste in your mouth. I won't get into it, but like, I really liked the way that this film ends, and I think it really brings this whole story, to conclusion here. The way that they went about it being, the conclusion, the way they decided to kind of conclude it, without getting into any specifics, this is the hard part to discuss here. I thought it was a little bit silly the way they did it, because it deals with paint. That's all I can really say. If you've seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so I really was not a big fan of that, but at the same time, I can see why they did it. I understand the story narrative reason, and all that, but I just didn't think that part was executed the best. And I think this is also one of the best paced Insidious films as well. So yeah, this film has that going for it as well. But this is a film that, you definitely have to watch this in a theater on a big screen with loud sound, because I think it definitely adds to the atmosphere of the film. Watching it in a dark environment, I think it definitely adds a lot. And that's all I'll say. Go check out Insidious: The Red Door.